technical issues. It's a pleasure to be here among you here in Vancouver. At least, thanks for the guys to pull me out from the minus 36 yesterday in Ottawa and coming here to plus 10. It's always nice, to see green after all these months. And I guess, I've heard a lot about the gray Vancouver. I had a lot of complaints verbally, and people send me as well, and writing emails and texts how terrible it is here from people who they live here. Well, come live in Ottawa for a week, and then you'll see the difference. But I guess it's always greener on the other side of the fence. And this is maybe today what I would like to do something similar, is that get ourselves out a little bit from our comfort zone and get into a window of somewhat what happens in Syria. Very small window, scratching the surface, nothing deep. It's actually a washed down presentation from what I would be giving in a human rights conference or a national security conference or even a university setting. So nothing really, anything that's deep, scratching the surface, but I think you might find it interesting. And I think what I hope, my aim is that we get, as the brother said, and the sisters, that we get the feeling of how things are in Syria, how people are living day in, day out, and how privileged, and sometimes that privileged life that we have here in Canada makes us sometimes forget how things are somewhere else. And we are tested all the time. We are tested in goodness and badness. We are tested when someone gets in jail or get bombed or get, in any form of insecurity. Even some of the Mufassirin said, of the tafsir of some of them, they said, this is security. And maybe we don't really appreciate it because we never lost it. And maybe when you don't lose something, you don't know the value of it. But for most Syrians now, that essential thing of life is lost. So I would be talking today, I will be starting about detainees, how things are in Syrian jails. I will be speaking a little bit about people who they are not in regime jails, how their life is, how they get treated outside. I'll have a couple of pictures. And then how it is even for people who they fled all this and went to a place like Lebanon. So in Syria itself, the most conservative estimates, you would hear 200,000 people detained, 300,000 people detained. Whatever the number is, there is no fixed number. One of the reasons is because you have detainees coming in and out of detention centers on daily basis, thousands of them, and the number that they come in, they're not the same as the people who they couldn't go out, because a lot of them, they die in detention centers. But most estimates they give, and if I would use the most conservative and UN estimates, as in a press release that was released 2 days ago, you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and you have about 300,000, a lot of estimates are, that they went in, and I would say they were way more because we don't have a good number. However, most of these people got detained for no reason whatsoever, other than maybe their political views, they said something, or their family, and the vast majority, they haven't done anything. They got picked up for no reason whatsoever. I went to Syria, I landed there, and this gives you an idea how things can change very, very quickly. From our life, I was free, traveling the world on business, coming to Syria to see actually my grandmother, whom I didn't see for a very long period of time. In the airport, that life changed instantaneously, almost got detained, went to a place they sent me in a few hours called Farah Palestine, notorious, internationally infamous for being a torture house. Got in a few hours, well, not even a few hours, in a very short hours, in a couple of hours, I was in a room blindfolded, huge noises came in, sounded like a lot of people came in because of the noises. And I was given, one voice said, would you like to be treated the good way or the other way? I didn't think it's a brainer to answer that question, and I answered it, and until today, I do think, what if I had actually chosen the other way? Because, I got to know what the good way is, and I keep on wondering what's the other way. They started asking questions. They didn't like what I answered, I guess. And very quickly, I got a blow across the face. Physically was extremely painful. But that physical pain, long gone. The psychological effect of it, the humiliation, the fact that they, with that slap, they took the humanity, the dignity of a person away, it's still present, it's still there. And I can feel it until today. However, that slap is a calculated slap. And this is something that a lot of people think that Syrian regime does things haphazardly, randomly. It's everything that they do, every slap they take, every word they say is actually a calculated step. That slap, from the research I got to know later, from the work I got to know later, it's actually a calculated slap. The Americans use it in their detention centers, in not the state detention centers, but the secret ones around the globe, and a lot of people use it. The aim for it is to establish two levels. There is a slave and there is a master. They are the master and the other person is a slave. And that's the tone that, it set the tone for the next 2 years, basically, that stuff. Things after that got from bad to worse. I was told to take off my shoe, my socks, my clothes, and lie down, face down, similar to this position, and put my legs up in the air 90 degrees. And they started hammering the soles of my feet with an electric cable. The best description I could get with that, to describe that, the pain from that, as if someone putting my legs in a bagel oven. Unbearable pain. I flipped and grabbed my legs. They flipped me back. They got one person to stand on the back of on my back, so they were pressing down so that I don't flip back. Another one was stepping on my cheek and pressing my head down. And they were taking turns in whipping me with electric cable. Now, these are very fit military personnel. They are trained, young soldiers. And they were getting tired of the whipping, but they don't give me a break, but they take turns, and the ones who they're not whipping, they would be kicking me all around. Every now and then, they pour cold water on the legs, they order me to stand, and to jog in place, and then go back to the position. Well, the idea for that, I learned later, was to control the swelling in the leg, and to prevent it from being numb, so that they wanted to keep me feeling the pain from the torture. That lasted it started on a Friday late afternoon, it lasted till Saturday morning. According to the interrogators themselves, they said it was about 1,000 whips, and it lasted about 8 hours continuously. I fainted at the end, I don't know what happened. All what I knew when I came around was someone checking my blood pressure. And I learned even that blood pressure, when they check it, it's basically to check if they can continue the torture, or if they should stop. So are you on the verge of dying, or they could keep on continuing what they were doing. They finished sending me down to a cell, and I'll come to describe the cell, and we have some pictures of a replica cell. Next day, and that cell was extremely small, the size of this table, almost. Maybe a little bit smaller. Even though it was really small and crammed, my hope was they would never open that door again, never see them again. Standing was not comfortable, standing was painful. The blood from my legs would get stuck to the blanket that's on the floor. Blanket is extremely filthy. Lying down in any position was very painful because of all the bruises and all the beatings all over. My hopes were dashed very quickly in a very short period, maybe a couple hours. I was pulled back up. I was told, Now that day, the first time when they did this, they said today is Fala, and this is called Fala. There's going to be the tire, dulab, the tire, it's actual car tire. Then it's going to be chair, nail pulling, and electricity if you don't talk. The problem with this is, if you don't have anything, well, what are you going to talk about, right? And the only thing is, they would torture the person till they get convinced that there's nothing that you have. And that's a problem, because if you don't have anything, they'll keep on torturing. Next day, which was the same day when they stopped this, I was pulled up again. They said, today we're giving you a break, and they went into marathon interrogation for about 18 hours. And to give you an idea how they interrogate people, it's a humiliating way for interrogating, but better than being beaten. They sit on a chair, and I would be sitting on the ground, in front of their legs. The next day, which now we're on Sunday, I was pulled up again. From the beginning, I was told, once I got to the torture chamber, take off my clothes. They brought a car tire, which most of you have 5 of them in your car. And I was told to yank myself in the car tire. And they told me how to squeeze myself in the car tire. So I was in this position that I would be down, and then they flip me up, so the weight would be on the lower back. This is actual car tire. Now, if you think about car tire, inside you have 2 very sharp rims inside. You have the inside rims of the car tire. Well, these 2 rims, they would be basically, you have it's like 2 knives pushing against the neck. And the other side would be behind the knees. The position itself is extremely painful. All that stress against the neck is extremely painful and damaging. It's a permanent damage. I have permanent damage in my neck because of this. Now, every time I tried to push my shoulder and take some of the pressure, I would be whipped harder to pull my shoulder out. While being like this, they kept on whipping, mainly the soles of my feet. If you look at how it is, well, that's very easy. So my feet would be here, so it's very easy target and easy position for them to put all their power and land on the soles of the feet. But my head was an easy target, my arms, and my genitals. And they didn't spare any of that. That lasted for a whole morning. When they took the tire out, I was paralyzed from the waist down. They were pouring cold water every now and then. But they didn't take the tire to stand. When they took it out, I wasn't able to walk, so I was still on the ground. They had a fan going on, and I was, it was shivering. All this, they wouldn't even give me my clothes, and they wouldn't even allow me to wear the clothes, which wasn't really a big deal, after being in the tire. And at last, I was able to move till the next day, early morning, when they actually helped me to stand and send me back to the cell. This is another way of torture that they use. And I actually never thought how painful something like this would be. Most of us when we were kids, I think we played with monkey bars. And I actually always thought when people talk about something like this, what's different than monkey bar? You're holding it up, right? And I always thought when people talked about this is that would be easier, right? Because the pain, when you leave these monkey bars, usually you're holding them, because your hand can't take it anymore, right? And you leave. Well, I thought, well, they would be tying it, so what's the big deal? Well, it's tied up from this, and of course, the whole time they were interrogating, and while interrogating, they were whipping. That day wasn't with a cable, it was with a belt. I got to a point after a while, I was totally drained, that no matter how hard they whipped, I had no energy to move my lips. No matter how hard I tried, and no matter how much they whipped, I had no ability to move my lips, to answer anything. Then they got me down. And by the way, just when they got me down, they untied the pain in the hand from the blood rushing back. It's like, a huge amount of needles being penetrating the hand at the same time, or